A young man's childhood of torment paired with his obsession with the 1972 film Frenzy led to his own sick and twisted obsession. He began to develop these very morbid fantasies, and those fantasies turned into a real-life murder spree in the 1990s. He managed to slay 17 women before police pulled him over for a missing license plate and discovered something far more sinister was at play when they discovered his latest victim in the trunk of his car. His name is Joel David Rifkin, and this is his story.
How I cut up with the idea of small packages, easy to hide, easy to make go away, easy to take out with the trash. Make everything as small as possible, make it all disappear.
Did you sleep well?
Yeah, fell out for about 6 hours.
Joel David Rifkin, he was born January 20th, 1959, making him an Aquarius, the first day of Aquarius season. So all you Aquarius down in the comments gonna be like, all of us, we don't claim him. We ain't like that. He was like that, okay? His birth parents were both struggling college students, so they didn't have much money or any of the things that you need to properly take care of a child and live life and be comfortable. And so they gave up Joel when he was just 3 weeks old. They put baby Joel up for adoption on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1959. He was just 3 weeks old. They decided, you know what? Nah. So baby Joel was adopted by an upper middle class family who had more money and was more equipped than they were to raise a child. 3 years later, the Long Island couple, they adopted a daughter by the name of Jan, and so they had their son and their daughter, and everything just seemed to be right with the world, right? The family appeared to have a pretty normal life. Now, in 1965, the family moved to East Meadow, Long Island, where little Joel was enrolled into Prospect Avenue Elementary School. Little Joel, he had a very difficult time blending in with the other kids, fitting in with the other kids. He was very unpopular with the other classmates due to his poor social skills and his just overall odd behavior. Relatable. I was an awkward kid too. I can relate. Now, because of this, he quickly became a target for school bullies. Joel was excluded from a lot of school activities, school sports, games around the neighborhood. Like, none of the children wanted anything to do with him. They would often make fun of him because of his slow walk and his slumped posture, which got him the nickname Turtle, because kids are fucking terrible. I'm telling you, they are the worst. Kids will let you have it. Let me tell you something right quick. I was on the phone with Violet. Now, if you don't know who Violet is, she's my niece. She was in the video where I shaved my head with my sister Melissa. Me and Melissa were already on the phone, and Violet calls, and we just merge her call in, and she tells Melissa, aren't you like 55? And so I'm quiet because I'm older than Melissa. I'm 4 years older than Melissa, and I don't want none of what Violet is bringing on this call, so I'm just quiet. But she circled around and she got me too. She was like, TT, which is what she calls me. She was like, I called you because Melissa told me that you were famous, but I googled your name and I couldn't find nothing. I said, oh, you keep campaigning for this ass whooping, little girl, you gonna get elected, okay? Moral of the story is, kids will let you have it. They don't care. I had to come for little Violet. I ain't gonna lie, I'm 31, but I had to say, well, was you spelling it right? Because you know, you 7 and 7-year-olds, y'all don't even spell that good, so are you spelling it right? Anyway, back to the story. Kids are terrible. And so they were very, very mean to Joel. They called him Turtle, like I said, because of his posture and his slow walk. Now, academically, Joel struggled in school, but it wasn't because he wasn't smart. It was because he had dyslexia and it went untreated. And so homeboy was just writing shit backwards all throughout elementary. Unfortunately, no one diagnosed him during these times, like during his early school year, so they could get him some help. Because of his dyslexia, his peers just assumed that he lacked intelligence, which was not the case at all. Homeboy had an IQ of 128, so that was not the case. He was very intelligent. He just lacked the tools that he needed to learn. Now, as Joel entered his teen years, he made more efforts to try to fit in socially with the children in school. He joined the track team, but that didn't really work out for him because his teammates, they tormented him relentlessly about the same things that he was always tormented about. When he realized that maybe athletics is not my thing, he decided to join the yearbook staff, but things didn't really work out for him on that aspect either. His camera was immediately stolen, and they did not invite him to the rap party at the end of the year. His desperate attempts at fitting in just were not working at all. Now, rather than rely on his family for comfort, he began to isolate himself a lot, and unfortunately, the more inward he became, the more disturbed his little thoughts became. From 1977 to 1984, over the course of 7 years, Joel attended college, but he moved school to school just because of bad grades. He was very intelligent, but he had a very hard time focusing on his schoolwork, and his undiagnosed dyslexia did not help at all. He also had a part-time job during this time. He also struggled to focus on his work just as he did with his schoolwork. School and work very rarely held his attention. He would very often skip class, skip work to focus on the one thing that did hold his attention and that he was very, very infatuated with, and that is ladies of the night. He had seen a movie called Frenzy, and I hadn't seen Frenzy, so I don't know what it's about. But apparently, whatever happens in this movie really planted the seed of this infatuation that he built up for these ladies and what they do. And he became obsessed with his thoughts of strangling them out because he is a weirdo. And so he ultimately is forced to drop out and gets fired from said job. Now, as he's spending more and more time with these ladies, like the more time he spent with them, the more isolated and withdrawn he becomes. It gets worse. Child, the crazier he also becomes, because he began to daydream about stabbing these women and strangling them, and just that was the fantasy. Tragically, on February 20th, 1987, his father passes away of an intentional overdose. He had been suffering from prostate cancer for several months and just decided that he no longer wanted to continue his fight. His passing was something that Joel really took hard, understandably. I mean, it is his father. And to add insult to injury, Joel, who is now out of school, out of a job, and spending most of his free time and extra money with these ladies of the evening, he is beginning to run out of money, honey. He ain't got no money. You know, you got to pay for these ladies' attention. And he was doing so until his money began to run out. Now, at this point in his life, with the current state of things, he is forced to move back into his family's home with his mother because he ain't got no money to take care of himself. By March of 1989, Joel is really having a hard time dealing with and fighting off his depraved mental fantasies, right? His mother has an upcoming business trip to which he sees as the perfect opportunity to carry out one of his dark fantasies. He sees his mother off as she leaves to go on her business trip, and then he goes and he picks up a young lady and brings her back to the house. We will refer to the lady as Susie. Now, once he gets Susie back to the house, he bludgeons her with a howitzer artillery shell that I guess he just had laying around. Like, why do you have one of these, sir? Why? Susie continues to struggle, and then he strangles her. After this, he attempts to remove her identity by severing her fingertips and removing all of her teeth with pliers. He then removes her head and places it in an old paint can, removes all of her limbs and places them in trash bags. He takes her head and her legs and he discards them in the woods in Hopewell, New Jersey. And then he takes her arms and her torso and tosses them into the East River in New York. Terrible and disgusting. A member of the Hopewell Valley Golf Club finds the bucket containing her head 7 days later after he had dumped her in the woods, and police are unable to uncover the victim's identity nor who had done this to her. They really had no leads and nothing to go on. Like, nothing. Just 1 year later, Joel claims his second victim, Julie Blackbird. Again, waiting until his mother was out of town, he drives Julie to his mother's Long Island home, where he beats her with a table leg. Yes, the leg off of a table. And then he strangles her after. Then he proceeds to dismember her the same way that he had done his previous victim, Except this time, because she had been found so quickly, he decided that he needed to do something different. He places her different parts inside of various buckets, and then he fills them with liquid concrete to weigh it down. He then takes the buckets and he splits them between the East River and the Brooklyn Canal and drops them in, hoping that this time these extra measures kind of prevent anyone from finding her too soon or finding her at all. In 1991, Joel starts his own landscaping business, and he would actually use the rental properties they will work on as a place to stash the bodies of his victims, because homeboy kept on going. When he got away with the first two, he did not stop. By the summer of 93, he had killed 17 women. 17. The police were rarely able to even identify the women, let alone the perpetrator of the crimes, because like I said, homeboy was out here removing fingertips, teeth, and heads, okay? Pretty much making it impossible to do. In June of 93, Joel kidnaps a young woman by the name of Tiffany Bresciani. Then he takes her back to his mother's home. I don't know why every time I say this, I feel like it gives me Norman Bates vibes, the fact that he's doing everything out of his mama's house. I failed to mention that he made several stops along the way back to his mom's house for tarp and rope, all while Tiffany laid on the back seat of his mother's car unconscious, because he was using mama's car because mama was out of town. Between his last stop and arriving back home at his mom's house, he stops somewhere and he wraps her body in the tarp and the rope and places her in the trunk. I don't know if I mentioned that he had strangled her, but if I didn't, he had strangled her in the car. He gets home and he removes Tiffany from the car and places her in a wheelbarrow. Now, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say this was done at nighttime, because nobody saw this happening. Nobody. He pushes the wheelbarrow into the garage, where he leaves her there for 3 days in the closed garage. Mind you, I told you this was all happening in June, in the summer heat. 3 days he leaves her body in the garage to fester and decompose. Disgusting. Now, after 3 days, he goes to the garage, removes her from the garage, and places her in the trunk of his car and begins driving in search of a place that he could properly dispose of her body. He's just driving down the street casually with the body in his trunk. He makes it about 15 miles from his home before police notice that he is missing the license plate from the rear of his truck, and they go to pull him over. But homeboy, knowing he has a whole human in the trunk of his car, he is not down for this simple pullover. Instead of him just peacefully pulling over, he decides, I'm just gonna run. I'm gonna run for it. I'm gonna make a run for it. Catch me if you can. But homie, don't make it that far, because as soon as he gets up to like probably 80, 90, somewhere in there, he crashes his damn car into a pole in front of a courthouse. Child, the little troopers they just swarmed the vehicle. They swarmed the vehicle, honey, and they are prepared to apprehend that ass, okay? Now, the police, they surrounded the vehicle, and they just like, girl, all it is because you don't have your tags, girl. Like, we was just gonna pull you over and give you a little ticket. Until they get close to the vehicle, and then they begin smelling this very pungent, foul, loud odor coming from the trunk, and they're like, this might not be what we thought it was. I wonder how that works with warrants and stuff, because if you pull me over, now granted I would never do this, but if I had a whole dead body in the trunk, you pull me over, if you ain't got no warrant, baby, I don't care what you smell, you ain't opening up this trunk. I don't know, maybe the laws are different, don't know. I'm sure y'all gonna let me know in the comments, because y'all be giving me all the tea on what I don't know down below. Bars. Anyway, they open up his trunk and there's Tiffany, and they immediately arrest his ass and take him to jail. No, girl, he did not collect $200. He didn't pass go, none of the things. The very same session that they begin interrogating him, the same session that homeboy confesses. Not only does he confess to the lady that they find in the trunk. He confesses to a total of 17 killings. Not only did he confess to all of the crimes, he wrote out the names of all the women that he could remember. He drew maps that would help detectives to locate the women that they had not located. They then transferred him to the Nassau County Corrections Facility over in East Meadow in order for him to wait there to stand trial. Child, let me go light with it, because one of my most recent videos, I just did the most. And when y'all saw it and y'all was scared, I was scared too. I ain't gonna lie. Now, on May 9th, 1994, that's my mom's birthday. Oh, shout out to all the Tauruses out there. I love y'all. My good girl Sarah, always in the comment section. I think she is a Taurus too. Let me get back to the story. May 9th, 1994, bald-head ass Joel is sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for the lives that he had taken, as well as for reckless endangerment leading the police on that good old high-speed chase. Can't believe he crashed into the courthouse. Like, sir. After his trial, he was transferred to Suffolk County Jail, where he pled guilty to 2 more counts of murder. For these, he received 2 more 25-year to life sentences. And by January of 1996, he was scheduled to serve a total of 183 years in prison. And that was just for the 7 that he had been convicted of. He had 10 other counts outstanding and pending. Now, apparently, the prisoners, they didn't like him too much. Oh, Joel, unlikable Joel. His birth parents didn't like him too much, child. The kids at the school didn't like him too much. And now he ain't getting along with the other prisoners because he has several conflicts with them. After so many, the prison officials decided that his presence at the prison was just too disruptive. And they got tired of it. I'm sure they got tired of breaking up fights and carrying on. And this was a very highly publicized case. So I'm sure a lot of people already knew his tea when he touched down, and they just weren't here for any of the things that he was here for. He was bringing. Caused plenty of fights. Because of all the disturbances, they decided to put him on a 23-hour lockdown in solitary confinement with 1 hour out to, I guess, stretch his legs and look at the sun. I don't know what they let you do on that hour out. Mama ain't never been to jail yet. He was in solitary for 4 years until he decided enough was enough. He attempted to sue the prison because he said it was unconstitutional to keep him locked up like so for 23 hours of the day. So what about the lives that you took? What about that? This probably goes without saying, but the court ruled in favor of the prison, told their girl, shut up, get back to your cell. He's now imprisoned with about 200 other inmates who are not allowed to mix in with the general public in prison. They just got their own little wing doing their own little thing. Bars again. I really should have been a rapper. You know what? I took off work today and I've really been thinking about selling drugs or doing something else to make money, and I probably should just take the rap route. Like, honestly, I'm thinking about it. Aquarius says, y'all good Aquarius brother has gotten used to being in prison by now. He actually said in a recent interview that he feels more at home in prison than he has ever felt anywhere else. Okay, sis. All right. Well, good, because that's where your ass need to be, honestly. In 2002, he decided to try to appeal his conviction, and the Supreme Court said, nah, sis, you ain't getting out. They rejected it just as quick as it was submitted. And Joel is now serving a total of 203 years in the Clinton Correctional Facility. He will be eligible for parole in 2197 at the tender age of 238. Now, he has since apologized for his actions to the families of his victims and all that were hurt by what he had done. He admitted that he is, in fact, a monster. When asked how he could have done this to 17 people, like how could he have done what he done to these women, he said, you don't think of them as people, you think of them as things. Which goes back to what I told you in the last video, how Lisa was so smart, trying to make her captor see her as a human, like kind of, strike up those feelings of empathy and all of that, make him see her as a human with feelings and emotions and all of that, because they don't often see their victims as people, they see them as things. And that is the reason that Joel gave his ability to do what he had done with ease, and not feel bad about it, to keep going and doing it over and over and over. He has been, since diagnosed with dyslexia as well as being a sociopath. He's completely aware intellectually of what he's done and why it's wrong and how it's negatively impacted so many lives and hurt so many people, and that is wrong. But as far as empathy and the emotional aspect of it, he doesn't get that part of it. Like, he can't relate. The feelings of outrage, the hurt, the emotion, he's devoid of all of that. So he can't relate to those feelings because he's a sociopath, a psychopath, or whatever. All of that, all of the above. While he said that he understands now what he's done was wrong, he gets it, he also has said that if he wasn't caught, he would not be able to stop. He doesn't feel like he would have been able to stop. He said that it was an obsession that he thought about constantly, like 24/7, and in between his crimes he would be researching ways to do it, ways to get away with it, ways to dispose of his victims, how to get rid of evidence, all of that. Like, he was just trying to become the best at it that he could. He was just constantly researching, constantly thinking about it, or carrying out his acts. He just obsessed over it. Like, it's literally all he thought about. He is still locked away in jail to this day, in case you would like to send him a little piece of hate mail. So that is pretty much the end of his story. Homeboy is just riding away in prison. If you enjoyed the video, or if you enjoyed the look, or if you enjoyed both, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Y'all, we gotta counteract the haters. Leave a comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to share the video with a friend. Subscribe if you have not. I don't know what you're doing if you haven't subscribed, and I bet you done watched like 3 videos and you haven't subscribed. What you doing, mama? Why? It's upsetting me and my homegirls. My homegirls is my subscribers. We is upset. Why are you here? If you have not subscribed, go on and subscribe, and then you could be a part of the crew, and we good. Y'all like my shirt? Look, it says unsubscribe. I'm calling it a shirt, but it's more like a fleece, a little hoodie, a sweatshirt. It is merch from the channel Better Off Red. She launched merch, and I had to support. I encourage you to do the same. I'll link her channel down below if you are unfamiliar. She does some true crime videos. She does a lot. She does some true crime videos. She does unboxings from subscription videos. She does product reviews. She does a lot. So go check her out. Till I sent you. As always, I appreciate you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. And his undiagnosed what? Correctional correct. He has been since diagnosed with dicks. What? Diagnosed with dicks? As always, I appreciate this video was one of the most difficult to film, and it wasn't even because of the subject matter. It's because I'm sitting here trying to do my makeup. I wasn't even liking how it was turning out. It was looking all messed up to me, trying to remember the details of the case, and then I have Whitney Houston stuck in my head, so I'm singing. I used to cry myself to sleep at night, but that was all. Like, I felt like Homeboy from Split, and everybody was trying to get to the light. I felt like one of me was trying to film this video, the other me was trying to tell the story. Patricia was back there singing Whitney Houston. Like, it was a lot going on. I'm interested to see how this turned out during filming, because surprisingly I feel like it's going to be one of the easier ones to edit. Psycho.